Hello, good afternoon. Thank you all for joining us for another week of the See Us podcast. As a reminder, this podcast and the narrative justice overall, we were started in honor and respect of Leroy Powell. Leroy was a 15-year-old boy in 2014. He was also a witness to an attempted murder turned infanticide. During his witness statement, of course, is recorded. Our local news media decided that it was a good idea to play his witness statement on the 11 o'clock news. Of course, he received death threats immediately, and he was killed shortly after. The narrative justice was literally started in honor and in respect and in just acknowledging how powerful narrative is and how important it is that we hold our local news media accountable. Accountability is absolutely key. As a reminder, it only takes about 25% of the community for change to occur. So don't ever think that you don't have, like the strength and the power to make change happen, which is also, when you meet the guests that I have today, you'll see how much synergy there is in that statement, So again, it only takes about 25% of community for change to happen. Don't think that you need everybody to be on board. Like once you get hit 25%, then that snowball effect does take place. Really quickly, I want to give a quick shout out to Nikki Jo Dawson, really good friend of mine, and a really, staunch advocate in our community. Today is her birthday, so happy birthday, Nikki Jo, Queen Nikki. Also, as a reminder, my other hat is the Wellness Collective. So we are operating a drop-in center for rent relief right now in McKeesport. So if you are someone you find yourself like struggling with rent or utilities, feel free to stop by. You can also do the application online at covidrent.allegheny COVID rent relief.alleghenycounty.us. I'll put the link in the chat because I think I might have got it jumbled up. But anyway, you can definitely do that online, or if you want to drop in and see us, you can definitely do that. We're at 337 Fifth Avenue, McKeesport, PA 15132. We're right next to probation. We're not in probation. I know that's been like a weird thing for a lot of people. Like they show up and they're like, "What am I doing here?" It's next to probation. So you'll see our little sign, and on top you'll see rent relief on top of the building. So drop in. We're open 10 to 6 most days during the week. The only day that we're not open 10 to 6 is Thursday. Thursday we are open 12 to 8. So come see us. We have also have a food pantry there, as well as a clothing. I don't know what to call it, clothing closet, but basically free clothes. And then other essentials like cleaning supplies, etc. So if you want to drop in and say hello, please do that. If you want to drop in and apply for like rent and utility relief, do that. If you want food, clothing, you want to contribute, please do that. Also, and again, once you see the guests that we have today, all of these things are very synergetic. But there is a shelter, the McKeesport shelter, that is currently looking for Black hair care products, hair and body products. They are at 523 St. Clair Street, McKeesport, PA 15132. They're right around the corner from us. So if you're able to donate, donate money or products so that, their folks have the things that they need that's appropriate for their skin and body, please do so. The folks who are helping to facilitate this shelter is Team PSBG. Aubrey Plesh is the founder, and that's also our guest for today. So I'm super excited. This is like one of my favorite people in the whole wide world, and you'll see why very, very shortly. And the last thing I'm going to mention, we have some exciting news ourselves. So last week I had mentioned the Wellness Collective Community Bank. So we're in a beta launch of that, but we'll be, sharing it more publicly here soon. But our community bank, or the community bank, essentially is a means to share resources amongst communities safely, so that everyone has what they need. It's super low barrier. Like it doesn't take a lot to support one another. It doesn't take a lot to receive support from one another. And I think what's the coolest thing is that we're able to preserve like our dignity and respect, and also like reconnect with our community in a way that kind of been lost over the years. I mean, I have this narrative, and I feel like a lot of people have this narrative of like when I grew up, like our neighborhood was a certain way, like the neighbors knew my dog, like we were looked after and such and such and such, and that's just not the case now. Like unfortunately, many of us don't even know our neighbor, who our neighbors are, right? Like, and I'm one of those people, quite frankly. From the North Side, very much I identify with the North Side, but I have not been on the North Side for several years, right? Like, and I know my immediate neighbors, but that's about it. Like that doesn't make a community to know a few folks. And unfortunately, many of us are carted around, displaced, like all sorts of things, kind of interrupt our ability to connect with one another. So, what we've experienced with the Wellness Collective being a thing is that it is a really cool way for people to reconnect with each other, like feel community with each other, and feel loved and supported by each other. Again, in a safe way that, doesn't feel exploitative or harmful. So that's been cool. So look out for the community bank. We'll be saying a lot more about it here soon. And I'm excited to share that with you all. So enough of my talking. I'm going to bring on our guest here, Aubrey Plesh of Team PSBG. How are you, Aubrey?
I'm absolutely excited to be here today. Thank you.
Yes, I love to hear it. Love to hear it. Thank you so much for being on here with me. I know you're a super, super busy person, doing all the things, saving all the worlds. So the fact that you
I think we have that in common. I look at you the same.
Oh, that means a lot coming from you. That means a lot coming from you. Yeah.
When we talk about community, I just want to point out, I was really excited to find out that you were a neighbor to us. And the collaboration between the ERAP Center and the winter shelter in the rear of McKeesport Downtown Housing, I think is only getting stronger by the day. So we're here to support you and be a part of this community. The idea of strength in numbers is real, and the community has shown up for us since November, and we're here to help support you in building up anything that we can as well.
You're so amazing. You are so amazing. I'm so excited. Like, thank you so much. And y'all already have been showing up. I mean, y'all have donated to the food pantry. Y'all donated to us. Like, shout out to that Keurig so we get fresh coffee in the morning. Like dropped off that huge load. Like Denise, our staff person, was so excited, and she's always very excited when you all show up. So thank y'all.
Certainly.
Super dope. I've been looking forward to this conversation, like forever, I think. So the first thing I want to ask you, Aubrey, is where are you from? Are you from Pittsburgh originally?
I'm from southwestern Pennsylvania. I grew up in Fayette County. I left when I was 17, came back here in 2008 when I became a mom. Yeah.
Aww.
Yeah. I actually, when I came back to Pennsylvania, I moved to the Mon Valley, specifically Christie Park. And I ended up having to leave Christie Park because I didn't find the help that I needed there. And I moved into the city. There were just more resources, more accessibility. So it's been very interesting. I've not talked openly a lot about the history of me and McKeesport, but it's nice to be back to see what I can do to help bridge gaps and also be a piece of what I know didn't exist for me when I was there.
That's real. Thank you for sharing that. I didn't know that was a part of your narrative, your dynamic. It's funny. Like I have a similar narrative of being displaced, as a child actually, or a young adult, I'll say. And it's funny because I felt like it completely left my mind until I was like being interviewed. Shout out to Lucretia Wembley, and she was asking me, like, well, how did you get your start or whatever? And in my mind, I was like, oh, like, it's just, I feel like it's important. But then I had to sit and think about it. It's like, no, like this is a thing you've experienced. That's why you know how important it is to have community. That's why you know like how little it takes to support somebody, because it would have taken so little, to save us, save our house. We lost our house. We were nearly homeless. I appreciate you sharing that.
Yeah. How we came into the community currently, historically, McKeesport Downtown Housing has hosted what is known as a severe weather emergency shelter in the rear of their building, acronym of SWIS. By federal definition, that shelter would only open when the temperatures dropped dropped below 25 degrees. This caused a a disturbance for the community and a lack of trust for the community. Since being established there, I've had many organizations as well as independent residents come to me and just blatantly tell me either they didn't use the service because they didn't know about it, or they blatantly didn't use it because it wasn't dependable. It was very intentional for PSBG to come into that space. We were alerted that there was no provider that was going to operate the SWIS, the Severe Weather Emergency Shelter, and given the dynamics of the pandemic and what was happening downtown with the Smithfield shelter at 620, there is another severe weather emergency shelter, winter shelter, excuse me. It's open every night. Historically, I want to say their bed capacity was probably somewhere around 130, possibly even higher. And their capacity was cut down to somewhere around 52 to 55 beds. Knowing that that was going to happen, and knowing that no one was going to operate a winter shelter in McKeesport, I wasn't willing to sit by and not try. So I threw my hat in the ring, and with the support of Action Housing and MDH, November 18th, we opened the doors.
Wonderful. Wonderful. I want to back up a little bit. Can you tell us what is PSBG?
Team PSBG is myself and a small group of volunteers who have been working typically in the South Side, but far-reaching. I think right now we have people in about 11 states, traveling all over, formally representing probably somewhere around 850 people formally at this point. What started with Ben Green, me meeting a man by the name of Ben Green, he's the G in PSBG, getting him help. And then some things happened in the city where more people became even more displaced, if that's even a thing, which we now know that it is when there are forced evictions of camps. And one by one, those people came to see me. And so I just kept showing up. What evolved was a dependable resource for the community that was as low barrier as it could possibly get. So every night, 6 nights a week, I sit on East Carson at 18th Street at a coffee shop, Delaney's, right across from PNC Bank. And people just show up and ask for help. COVID definitely changed the dynamics of how PSBG was interfacing with people. I'd say probably about 70% of the people who reach out to me for help now are through either Facebook, text messages, or phone calls. But we still do offer 6 days a week in-person help.
Wow. Okay. I'm sorry. Can you hear me okay?
I can.
Okay. Sorry, it was a little wonky on my end. Great. So that's a lot. That's a lot. Expanding, like in 11 states. How do y'all pay the bills? Like how do you sustain that?
For PSBG as a whole, there is no funding for the outreach and advocacy component of PSBG, which is the part that sits on the street and helps people. I opened up, so far I'm on my 3rd credit card to keep that going. Coffee is expensive, but a cup of coffee can change a life. And it's meant a lot to me to be able to continue that service no matter where else we've traveled, such as now being a shelter operator. We've not diminished our service or lowered the services that we provide in any other capacity. We still have our underground food bank. We run a phone program. Running a harm reduction model means, distributing Narcan with the help of the Allegheny County Health Department. The shelter currently is funded with DHS funding through June 30th. It will expire midnight, June 30th.
Yeah. Okay. So is the plan to keep it open, or is that when the doors are expected to close? What's the plan?
The original intention would have been, with the lack of funding, that the doors would close. About 7 weeks ago, I approached our core crew, long-term volunteers and current full-time crew members, and I said, what the hell are we going to do? We fought really hard to not just keep this space open every night, but we also fought to keep it open 24 hours a day. How are we going to walk away from this community that is showing up for us And collectively, we countered with an offer that once the funding ended, Team PSBG would raise the funds and pay the rent itself, and keep the shelter open until another contract could potentially be drawn. As it stands, starting July 1st until November 14th for sure, there is no current funding set. No one has approached us with help to keep it open. So we are actively fundraising. We did have an amazing donor come to us with the first 500 for the first month's rent. Thank you, Judy. And so we're just actively raising the $600 a month in rent, and our crew is dedicated to manning the shelter for 12-hour shifts. So we will stop 24-hour operation and take it from 7 p.m. to 7 a.m., potentially looking to change it to 8 p.m. to 8 a.m., give people a little more time in the morning. But we're committed to continuing to show up. The community is continuing to show up for us, so we're not leaving.
Yeah, that's amazing. Well, I want to like underscore what you just said there, though. Like, this is a shelter that's ran by, government agencies, and, they had the money, extended to a particular time, and there was an expectation for it to end. And it didn't end because you didn't let it end. And folks don't realize, first of all, that that's even possible, right? Like this idea of like, well, this is what the rules are, like this is what they said. So, like what can you do? Even when there's people on the line, right? Even when there are bodies on the line. And you all said, no, we can't do that. We have this whole operation, like these are actual people who are depending on this.
Yeah.
Like, and it's sometimes I feel like it's difficult for folks to reconnect with the bodies, with the people. Like when you're doing the work and you're disconnected from the actual people, from the hellos and the goodbyes, from the sorrows, for the tears, for the hunger. We get further and further away from that. You forget that these are people. So it's not operation, right? Like it's not just, okay, well, this thing exists. This is a project, and it had a beginning and end date.
Right.
There are people involved. The fact that you kept that going is so amazing to me.
To put in context, if we closed our doors 6/30/21, there would be 18, as of numbers right now, 18 people that would be turned to the street with no other alignment other than referral to another emergency shelter, assuming that we could find space, and 5 people will lose full-time employment.
Wow. Wow. What does it look like for your folks who stay at the shelter?
Give me a little more context what you're looking for.
I've, social worker by trade, so I've seen a lot of different types of shelters that operate differently. So I'm wondering what the culture is, like what the feel is, like what is it, what would be the experience if I was a person that came to stay with you all?
I think the biggest change that PSBG is bringing to our amazing COC is the idea of low barrier shelter that doesn't exist here. Our view of what low barrier means, we bring people in 24 hours a day. We do have a curfew set for specific reasons, but people still come in after that time. We do try to run at least some semblance of dinner is this time, breakfast is this time, lunch is this time. But for us, for example, maybe you're someone who doesn't typically sleep at night and you sleep during the day, so you're out at night. Typical shelters would say you forfeited a bed. I don't care. If you're sleeping in a bed, I don't care what hours that it is. You need it. You have it. It's yours. I think another really resounding thing is truly meeting people where they are. So anybody that comes in that's tied in with services, we really almost strong arm their supportive service.
I think I'm frozen. Uh, Aubrey, I believe you are frozen. I'm gonna try to get Aubrey back. I'm not sure if she's frozen or I'm frozen. It looks like she's frozen. Yep, lost up. So hopefully she'll be able to jump back on. As a reminder, while we hope that she does make it back on, this is the shelter that I typically speak on. That is the very shelter that Team PSBG is facilitating in McKeesport. It is co-ed. It is 24 hours, as she said, and they are actively seeking Black hair and body care products. So if you are able to donate, if you're able to donate money or actual products, please do that as well. 523 Sinclair Street, McKeesport, PA 15132. All right, I think I have her here. All right, y'all, please give us 1 second. We're gonna try to get Aubrey back here. Hey.
Hey, am I back?
Yep, you're back.
Awesome. Okay, so I'm doing it from my phone, so I don't know if there's going to be any difference in quality.
Oh, it's all good. You look fine. You look fine now.
Awesome. Okay. So I'm not sure where I dropped off, but the idea is with this all access shelter that we're running, 24 hours a day, people show up and they're helped in some capacity. If I'm running at max capacity over by 2 as is, so we're referring out daily. But we'll send you with a sandwich, water, Narcan, resources. If you are experiencing a crisis, we'll do our best to link you with Resolve. We've had also community come to us with just active physical health issues. We have also seen an instance where we didn't know how present we were in the community until one day some people actively fleeing some violence came to our door and in an emergent situation asked us for help. And that really, it's been a really big thing to be able to assist the individual that needed help. It's been honestly quite groundbreaking. But if there's one thing I can say, looking at all access shelter, is we need more of this in Allegheny County. We need more of our shelters to understand that situations happen 24 hours a day. Asking people from the Mon Valley to get to Light of Life for 4 o'clock to maybe get a spot is just not reasonable. And the idea that if you have an alternative schedule, you somehow aren't the same as the person on the mat, in the bed, in a cot. You are not worthy. So we do everything we can in our space to breathe humanity back into the idea that shelter is for the person. I work hard to remind our entire crew and every provider that has come through, anytime somebody walks through our door, it's a trauma, right? Like by the time you get to the point that you have to walk into a shelter, that in itself is a trauma. So from the moment you step foot in there, we want to do our best to give you humanity. I don't want you coming to us and asking for towels so that you can take a shower. You don't need to ask us for toothbrushes to be able to brush your teeth. We want to be able to have the products to meet the needs of the persons that are actually using our shelter. And that has been a really hard thing to finagle, based on the fact that we are, I want to say 80% driven on community support. Currently in the now, we do have DHS funding that is paying our staff, but there's no funding paying for the things, the art supplies. That funding ended at the end of the first contract pretty much. And we are just day by day trying to, gather what we can from inside the community, and it's showing up. So we're going to keep doing the same thing.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. Oh, like, and it's like the little things that people don't, first of all, most folks don't have an idea what it looks like inside of a shelter, right? And so you really don't know what that looks like and what it feels like. And I love the fact that you acknowledge that it is a trauma to have to seek that type of support, right? Like,
Yeah.
and then hoping that the people who are on the other side of that door are compassionate and loving and caring, and will see you as a whole person. Um,
Yeah.
Having to ask for toiletries, having to ask for body products, having to go through that experience is a lot. It's really, really heavy. And then to be denied some of those products,
Yeah.
it's, yeah, like I interned at a shelter, my second internship in college. And, like it was a wild thing to me, first of all, that I had to deny a woman an extra washcloth because they only allowed you to take one and she needed two because a lot of folks use more than one washcloth and they said no, and would not allow me to give her another washcloth.
I don't want to wash
um
my face with the thing I wash my ass with.
Come on. Come on, like why is that even a rule?
Right.
But it was, and I don't know if it still is a rule, but definitely was. And I remember distinctly there was a woman fleeing a domestic violence situation with her son. Her son was 8 at the time. um Very loving, unit, clearly well taken care of, very, well loved child. Um, she was very, protective when she came into the shelter. She didn't really communicate with any of us, didn't want to be friendly, didn't have much to say to anybody. And I understood that as, cool. Um, I was an intern, not her caseworker. Caseworker didn't really care for her because of, she just didn't want to be friendly. But this shelter first of all, required an STD screening. Um, they didn't have to turn in the results, but they had to have this screening done, and with like a thing saying I had this screening done. And there was like a number of like documents that had to be turned in within the first week of them being there. It was a month schedule, whatever. And if they didn't have all the information in, then they were removed from the shelter. This woman's fleeing this situation. She bounced from a lot of places. DHS was involved with her son, and it was, if she got kicked out of this place, because I guess she's been moving around because her husband was, tracking her, and if she got kicked out of this place, she would lose her kid. Whew. She So she went to the hospital, got the screening, but they never signed the paperwork. And she kept calling up there, and they just didn't care to give her the paperwork. And so she finally came to me and she was like, they're not giving me what I need. Like, like it's about to be Friday. If I get kicked out, I'm gonna lose my son, whatever. And I was like, okay. So I called the hospital, and of course, magically, magically, like they immediately like sent it to me, right? So they faxed it over. It's Friday. The caseworker left by the time we got everything faxed over. The caseworker left, but the assistant director was there. And so got it. I was like, all right, we good. We got everything together. So, race it over to the office. I'm like, here's all our paperwork. And the director sat back and looked at me and was like, well, her caseworker's gone. And I said, you're her boss. Like, why does that here? Here's the thing. And she was like, well, I can't do anything about that. And I was like, she's going to lose her child. And she scoffed. And I like broke down. Oof. And I like took off running. And she came in behind me, and I was so thrown off because her response was, I thought she was coming to comfort me or to say something. And her response was, we're not here to advocate for these clients. Bro, like, what? And then they left, and I don't know what happened. I'm sorry, but yeah. So when I say I appreciate you.
Thank you. Yeah. I mean, that situation I obviously am not a part of and I can't speak to. And my heart and my optimistic side wants to say that that's not standard anymore. But I can't speak to the rules of the other shelters. What I can tell you is at this all access shelter, there is only one requirement set forth currently by DHS, and that's a form called HMIS, is filled out, Housing Management Information System, which is basically how they report to HUD, Housing and Urban Development, and they get money to pay for that space being utilized. I'm going to be very honest. We've encountered 4 individuals that have basically said, fuck you. I'm not giving you any of this information. I'm not even going to tell you if I'm giving you my name. And that's a combination of all the 4 stories together. And I didn't deny them. If you need a place to stay, or let me even just say, you want a place to stay, it's my job to help make sure you have a place to stay. That's what I am there for. We don't collect social security cards, birth certificates, or IDs on individuals. We need to change the scope of how we're looking at what this crisis service is throughout our entire continuum. I think one of the things that I'm hopeful to dispel with continuing to operate in this space is this idea that people want to stay in shelter if you make it nice. There isn't, of our 18 people right now, there is no one that is planning to live there indefinitely. We did have an emergency closure for 3 days due to a plumbing issue. And what I can tell you is we had 2 individuals cry that they were having to go somewhere else. And they were exceedingly happy when they came back. But that by no means is a measure that they don't intend to leave. Part of keeping people safe is also keeping people understanding that they are their own person and having full autonomy as to what the pace of that looks like. I believe current stats that Department of Human Services would put out would say that people don't typically stay in winter shelter longer than a handful of days or so. Their instances are brief and non-reoccurrent or something along those lines. Please don't quote me on that. We have people who've had bed nights for over 150 nights. That is not a failure. That is a success. That is 150 nights that somebody said, I feel safe enough to come back here.
Mm-hmm.
That's what matters most. Mm-hmm. Having a space where people know I can go here, whatever their reason is, whether it's I'm just trying to get out of where I am until I can figure out myself. I'm trying to put myself passively in an environment where I'll get additional help for something that I'm having a hard time getting help for if I openly say it. For example, in our shelter, there is Narcan available at every access point. So we have Narcan in our laundry room, both bathrooms, and 3 cubbies in our stations where people can access supplies for themselves at our front desk and in the dorms. You don't have to ask us for Narcan, right? Just the fact that it's visible takes down a barrier of someone saying, I'm working myself through my substance use. I don't know what my next step is, but maybe you do. Would you talk to me about that? Are there resources that can help me do this more safely? And we have some amazing resources like Prevention Point Pittsburgh here in the city that do help with amazing harm reduction supplies. PSBG works hand in hand with Prevention Point. So, just trying to do the things to help make sure that people understand that their path is theirs. We don't say, if you don't call the Allegheny Link in 3 days, we're turning your bed out. We'll remind you that the county has set forth. Within 3 days, you're supposed to call the Allegheny Link. And the Allegheny Link has recently started doing face-to-face encounters again, and the Allegheny Link is now coming into our shelter every other week, which is very helpful. I think it's important when the services are showing up to where people are, because if we continually expect people to go where services are, that's a barrier.
Absolutely, absolutely. Aubrey, you all obviously have no intention of stopping this movement here. You know, absolutely no intention. And you know, I heard you say that the DHS funding ends the 30th of this month, correct?
Yes.
Is there a projection on what the sustainability look like? And also, if I can ask, what is it that community can do to make sure that your doors do not close? Because this is not a resource that we can really afford to lose, right?
I would say the bare bones basic is getting community support for the rent. Team PSBG has done some things with our budget. We've stopped purchasing coffee at our evening meet and diverted our coffee budget from our street outreach to help subsidize the rent in the event that we have to. But we are asking the community for continued support so that we can continue the other work that we're doing in the same capacity. Continuing to follow Team PSBG and looking at the Amazon wish list. We try to update it weekly. Things pop up. Nobody realizes pens are fucking expensive. We need pens. We need copier paper. We're doing good on personal hygiene stuff right now. Part of the reason for that is Light of Life has been an amazing resource to help us bolster some supplies, knowing that we were coming to the close and that some avenues of how we would have typically maybe maneuvered some things were going to end. They pulled us together just this week, a couple cases of shampoo and conditioner. And then we've also partnered with a company called My Amazing and Hemps, which we would encourage you guys to all go find. They have amazing products, and they delivered a pallet of conditioner and shampoo about 3 weeks ago, as well as body lotion and hand sanitizer. So we are seeing, and as things are changing, we are seeing the community hearing that it's not little, but it's the little things that really cost a lot of money. I need cases of toilet paper. I need hand soap for our dispensers. We're good on sanitizer. Just want everybody to know that we're really good on sanitizer. Laundry detergent. We're trying to be as eco-friendly as possible. I like laundry detergent sheets. It's less waste, excuse me. And we continually add those things to the wish list. Reach out, call us, tell us, text us, email us, Facebook us, tell us that you want to help and you're not sure exactly in that moment what need needs to be met. And we will tell you, hands down, we will give you full honesty. We want to meet you where you are too. And if the need you have to give does not meet us directly, we will help make sure you get plugged into exactly where it can benefit most from that need. Mm-hmm. I'm having a hard time reading because I'm on my phone. It looks like there's some comments.
Oh yeah, there's been several comments. One currently, it says government goals do not match, current expenses necessary for realistic operations. Personal circumstances for those displaced, housing market conditions. Realism needs to come into the picture. It's great for people who plan and have saved for being homeless and stabilized mental health conditions, but not for what reality is.
I couldn't agree more.
Another person commented, said, what is the number to donate?
So Team PSBG does have a Venmo. I don't know, Shannon, if there's a way for you to, I think you have our donation stuff. So we do Venmo, it's at Team PSBG. PayPal is teampsbg@gmail.com. My phone number to call me directly is 724-244-6565. We accept donations by mail. P.O. Box 60091, Pittsburgh, PA 15211. You can reach us through Facebook pretty easily. There's a way to email us. There's a way to post to us. Our phone number is on there. We try to be as accessible as possible, nearly 24 hours a day.
That's I caught the Venmo at Team PSBG, and the PayPal is teampsbg@gmail.
Yes, thank you.
Okay. And then I'll post the rest of it because I couldn't type that fast. I'll
Thank
post
you.
the rest in the link.
Okay.
Awesome. What are the other things that we had discussed, regarding the community bank? What we would like to do is, in the community bank as a setup, there are several different tracks, and one is for unhoused, displaced resources, persons resources, and we would love to, add you all as, I don't even know what to call it, beneficiary or something, to make
Thank
sure
you.
that at least the rent is paid, that track.
Thank you.
So we'll get more information. Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah. So we'll talk more about, getting that set up and get you all underway, because we cannot afford to lose this resource, right? Like, think about all of the folks who are being impacted, in lives, like our lives radiate outwardly. So we really just cannot not afford to lose you or your team. And shout out to your team. Like, they are so dedicated and here for the move. Like, I just love, like, I get filled up by you all. It's so hard to come across folks who are genuine about the work sometimes. And you can be overwhelmed, and you can be disillusioned, and then to come across like your whole squad, you especially, and then your folks, and everybody is like, yes, this is what we're here for, and knowing that it's poured from the most genuine place is so filling. I so appreciate you all. So, Aubrey, is there anything else?
Yeah, I do want to say, the crew that has come together to operate shelter is this amazing little rogue team. What most people don't know is most, if not all, of our current full-time crew members either currently or have in the last 3 years meet the federal definition of street homeless. When we look at what it takes to make shelter work, it's not droves of people with letters after their name. The answer is not all those with just lived experience, though. I'm going to be very honest. We, looking futuristically, are hopeful to bring more people on board that do have more social work experience. But when we talk about the success of the McKeesport, currently known as Winter Shelter, it is because the folks that have dedicated their time, separate from me, are people who live and breathe right alongside, and live, some of them, right alongside those accessing the service. It's hard. It's really hard. But this team has fought through 3 different "are we going to close?", has rallied and decided to commit its time to keep it open, and continually shows up to support me, which is not easy. There are a lot of things that we're working on to try and strengthen the shelter as a whole, as well as our continuum. And every single day, our crew members, they don't just give their all. They bleed, they cry. It is something that I don't even know if I can put into words. I'm very thankful, and our entire continuum of care should take a look at the fact that these are the people that have made this very non-traditional shelter work. A lot of people look to me as being the person that did this. I'm the idea guy, and I have a lot of ideas, and I do a lot of work to help make sure that everybody understands what person first and strength in numbers means, and that we live and breathe that harm reduction model in our shelter. But those are the folks doing it, and with as much as I know that I'm the guy, those are the people doing the fucking work. And it hurts to know that on the 30th, they will all lose their employment.
Yeah, so we're definitely going to put all the links, all the means to connect into the chat, the comment section. So if you are someone who, clearly you like to, there's no way not to value what it is that they're doing. Definitely hit up Aubrey. Definitely pour into what they do, because we cannot afford to lose this resource at all, like whatsoever. So shout out again, one more time, to you and your team. Y'all are amazing, amazing people. I'm so thankful and honored to have crossed paths in the ways that we cross paths. Is there anything else that you want to share before we cut out today, Aubrey?
I look forward to hitting November 18th of 2021 and saying, we ran the first year-round low barrier shelter in Allegheny County. And I'm thankful for all of those that are going to be stepping through with support to make that happen. Like you. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Aubrey. I appreciate you.
Yeah. Strength in numbers. Be safe.
Do the same. And if you've seen in the chat that hashtag SIN, that is Aubrey's calling card, strength in numbers, strength in numbers. Absolutely.
Yes.
All right, and that'll do it for us today. Thank you so much, Aubrey Plesh, Team PSBG, the brain, the mastermind behind the work. But as she mentioned, she is a part of the team, a beautiful team. They do very, very great work, necessary work that, folks don't realize, like, how powerful. First of all, we don't realize how powerful we are as people, right? Like I said, like, it only takes about 25% of the votes, to make change happen. Don't think that your voice isn't powerful. Don't think for a second that your voice isn't powerful. And Aubrey is certainly one with a very powerful voice, and we've been using it for years. Putting hard work, putting pain, putting experience, putting love into practice is such a calling, such a calling. So if you are, again, someone who has been watching, please share. Make sure that folks see, the work that Team PSBG has been doing. Make sure folks know how to support them. We are on the road to June 30th, and the goal is to make sure that they are properly resourced, fully resourced, so that they can continue to do the great work that they do. And that'll wrap us up for today. It's been quite a week. It's been quite Mercury has been all the way in retrograde around here. So it's been like that for me, and so it has been like that for a lot of folks. So if it's been like that for you, I am sending all the love, care, and strength to you, child, because it's been some time. But I'm going to cut out today because I'm tired. Love and respect and honor you all. Thank you for joining us today. Definitely share. Definitely reach out to Aubrey.